Maybe it was a financial crash in 2008 where I lost a lot of money. Maybe it was my divorce. Maybe it was COVID. Or maybe it always been there, waiting for me to finally slow down enough to notice. It just never felt like the ladder I was climbing was actually leaning against the wall that actually mattered to me. Then slowly, something started shifting. My friends are gonna watch this. People I've worked with for years are gonna watch this. And my kids are gonna see this and genuinely think that I've lost it. But I'm saying these things anyway, because I feel I have to. Something's happened, something I honestly couldn't explain, something I couldn't logic my way out of. And once I felt it, I couldn't unfeel it. And it's changed everything for me. If you're functioning, if you're doing what you're told you're supposed to do, showing up, performing, maybe you're even wildly successful on paper, whilst quietly wondering, is this really it? Then this podcast is for you. Hi, my name's Scott, and welcome to my new podcast, Own Yourself. But a year ago, I was grinding, working hard, doing everything I thought that I was meant to be doing. The corporate career, the beautiful home, the cars. Honestly, it felt like the whole picture. But somehow the entire time, it just never felt like the ladder I was climbing was actually leaning against the wall that actually mattered to me. Then slowly, something started shifting. I started becoming intensely aware of energy. Not as a concept, but in a real physical way. The energy of people, conversations, of my home, and my own body. And I noticed patterns, synchronicities, moments that felt too precise to be random. A quiet pull telling me to just pay more attention. And the strange thing is, I think I'd always been this way. In my 20s, I read a book called The Celestine Prophecy. It was about energy, intuition, human connection, consciousness. Something in me lit up when I read it. But then life happened. My career, ambition, performance, the grind. And I put that part of myself back on the shelf. I ignored it pretty much until my divorce a decade ago. Going through that process, having been married to a woman I loved who just didn't want to be with me anymore, I was desperate. Not dramatic like movie scene desperate, quietly desperate. The kind where, you're still functioning, you're still productive, still showing up for work, still smiling in conversations, but underneath you kind of feel a little bit lost. So eventually I reached out to a psychic and an energy healer, but just out of nowhere. It just felt like something I should do. And it felt strange. Me, a logic guy, a corporate guy, a guy who probably would have laughed at someone if they told me they were doing this. And one day I walked into this quiet room with the energy healer, soft music, almost like a massage room. I laid down on the table and she worked on me with her energy healing for an hour. When I got up from the table, I felt like I just had one of the deepest, deep tissue massages of my life. My muscles ached, I was dehydrated, my whole body just felt wrung out, and yet somehow lighter at the same time. And she hadn't touched me, literally, not once. Hadn't put even a finger on me, the lightest touch on me. Not a single finger had been laid on my body. And I felt like I'd been worked on for hours. Now, you can explain that away if you want to. And honestly, I get it. I would have done too. But I was there. It was my body feeling what I was feeling. And once I felt it, I just couldn't unfeel it. So I kept going. I saw an astrologer, psychic, Vedic astrologer, another energy healer, a psychic. I attended classes, I attended courses, different people, different modalities, different backgrounds. But somehow they just kept running into the same theme about me. Sometimes, honestly, even the same words. It was as if sometimes they'd compared notes about my life, but they hadn't. They'd never met each other. They lived in different places. So when I stopped trying to explain everything away, that's when I got quiet and started listening. Because I've come to believe certain things, that life or consciousness, whatever intelligence underpins all of this, meets you where you are. It finds the words, the symbols, the language that you're actually capable of hearing if you choose to. For some people, that's religion. For some people, it's meditation. For others, it's running or exercise or resistance training. For some, it's trauma. It's the tragic things that happen in their lives. For me, it started in a room with an energy healer. But if I'm honest, I ignored it again. Or more accurately, I got distracted by my ego, by my fun, by the lifestyle I really started to enjoy until something happened again that I couldn't pretend away. And I'm talking a good few years later that I ignored it. I met someone, a woman much younger than me, beautiful, Brazilian, at a time in my life when I was not done chasing fun and absolutely not looking for change. I was still very distracted, chasing women, validation, performing versions of myself that felt good in the moment, but something happened with her that I couldn't categorize. She felt it instantly. I felt it a little later, but it ended my performance. It ended hers. Hers with me, mine with her. And over time, I learned there's a name for this. It's what some people call soul recognition. We didn't know each other, but it honestly, the time we met felt like our souls did. A psychic later suggested to me that, this was part of her purpose for me and part of my purpose was for her. And not necessary to stay in a relationship forever, but just to stop me long enough to remember who I was becoming and who I was not meant to become. And maybe that's how life works sometimes. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. It finds a way in. It meets you where you are. And at that point in my life, honestly, I was having so much fun. I wasn't going to be talked into anything, not lectured, not argued with, not converted. I had to be stopped. And it was meeting her. She stopped me without even trying to. That turned out to be the only language that I was capable of hearing. I would not have heard it from a religious scholar. I wouldn't have heard it from a TV show. I wouldn't have heard it from a priest. I only heard it the only way I was capable of hearing it at that point, which was from a young lady I fell for. Now, I need to be clear about something. I am not a guru. I am not a spiritual leader. I'm not here to hand you any belief system. I am just a guy who finally got quiet, paid attention, and found something meaningful on the other side of that silence. And I want to honestly try and help other people find it too, if that's what they're open to, because here's what I think is happening. Many people, most of us, have become so disconnected from themselves, consumed by performance, careers that really don't mean that much to them, their phones, endless scrolling, algorithms, habits that give the appearance of a beautiful life. But within all that noise, we've just stopped hearing ourselves. Even in spiritual spaces, a lot of people are still chasing outcomes, the money, the relationship, the manifestation. And I'm not for a second saying those things are wrong. What I'm saying is they aren't the point. The point is the connection. Because when you are deeply connected, when you are aligned, when you are aware, life honestly just starts moving differently. Think about it this way. I own a beautiful black convertible Maserati Gran Turismo, but I treat it badly. The tank is always run down. There's no fuel. I use the wrong fuel. The tires are not inflated. The battery, which is already quite reliable in those cars, is constantly drained. It doesn't matter how polished the exterior is. But when I do treat it well, when I do put in the right gas, when I do spend the time charging the battery, when I do treat it well, it just purrs. And most people spend their entire lives just polishing the surface, like I do with my car. And it doesn't matter what the exterior looks like while something deeper is actually being starved. And this show is about the fuel. Over this podcast series, I'm going to share with you a blueprint. Not borrowed quotes, not internet wisdom, not religious theory, but things I have actually lived. Because when I started reconnecting, the synchronicities truly became hard to deny. The right people started appearing. Certain doors started closing and others opened. And in the first time in my life, I honestly stopped thinking it was the end of something and started believing it was the start of something new. And at the very least, I think this journey can help us all feel more present, more honest with yourself, more alive. But it can also do a lot more than that. A lot of people have lost connection with their purpose, with why they're here. And I think part of waking up is remembering why you're here. And it isn't important to me what language you use for that deeper connection. God, the universe, consciousness, the divine, Jesus, Allah, Brahma, the quantum field. It does not matter what you call him. What matters is that you do call. And the name matters far less than the experience. What matters is the connection itself. And I believe every single person has access to this connection. Every single person, right now. Not in a church, not in a mosque, right now, wherever you are. And you do not need to become somebody else. You don't need a title. You don't need to have your life perfectly figured out. You just need to slow down long enough to listen. Every episode of this podcast series will stand on its own. Real stories, tools, frameworks, conversations, things you can actually use in your real life. We're going to talk a lot about energy, a lot about health, relationships, consciousness, your body, your purpose, your shadow. We're going to cover a lot, and they're all connected. After diving into all of this, the spirituality, the psychology, the physics, the ancient wisdom, the biblical stories, the modern science, what strikes me most is that they all seem to be pointing towards the same thing. So come with me. Learn why your breakdown may actually have been the beginning of something. Learn why certain people entered your life exactly when they did and left exactly when they did, why some doors had to close, why you felt disconnected even though you may be succeeding. Learn how to reconnect with yourself, with meaning, with a deeper current underneath life. And maybe for the first time in a long time, you, like I, will feel fully alive again, fully awake, because I truly feel for the first time in my life that I am finally on a ladder that is worth climbing. Thank you for listening. And if there's something in this episode that resonated with you, I would love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell me what landed. If you have questions, thoughts, or a story of your own, reach out. Email me. And if someone came to mind while you were listening to this who would benefit from hearing this, please share this with them. And if you'd like to join me for the rest of this journey, please follow or subscribe below. And until next time, own yourself.